Do I tell my joke?
Is it good, Josh? Is it good?
Is it appropriate?
The whole CrowdStrike thing let us know one very important thing, that nothing important runs on Mac OS.
Yeah, that was great.
You would think when you posted up to Facebook and only 3 people gave it a like that you wouldn't say it anymore.
Yeah.
No, no, no. You underestimate me, sir.
On tonight's episode of the K-12 Tech Talk podcast, we talk about the latest in Children's Online Protection Act and discuss the landmark decision around the constitutionality of E-rate. We also discuss pay raises and the Olympics. Have a listen.
Live from the NTP studios, this is the K-12 Tech Talk podcast. I am Josh. Somebody told us we need to use our names more. So I am Josh.
I am Chris.
And I'm Mark.
And we are your hosts. And this is episode 175. I'm using my brand new iPad and Apple Pencil for notes this week. Thank you for supporting our sponsors. Chris, do you want to tell us real quick about NTP and their your event that you have coming up with NTP?
Yeah, so we're going to hang out with NTP and E-rate Sync in Richmond, Virginia on September 20th. That's for the Southeast region of K-12 Tech Pro, all the members of that region on K-12 Tech Pro. But for anyone around Richmond, Virginia, the surrounding states, come and hang out with us for $25, a full day of professional development for you and your team, printer tech, network admin, all the way up to CIO. We promise it's a great time, but NTP will be there to hang out with us as well.
All right, so let's jump into the news. Since Mark is now unemployed, he's asked us to start paying us by the story, or paying him by the story that he comes up with. So there's 3 stories tonight, so he gets $6.
Hey, I'm gonna add a story just because I need to get coffee. The CrowdStrike. We talked about CrowdStrike last week when it was at the Midwest Tech Talk, but
that happened since we recorded last. Kind
of. My CrowdStrike saga did not end very well at all. So if you didn't listen to last week, my last day of work was CrowdStrike day, and it was quite a way to go out. And then I went to go visit Josh and Chris, and I flew Delta. And so CrowdStrike ruined my trip to you guys. And I don't even know if I told you this. I got home at 3 a.m. following the West Tech Talk, thanks to CrowdStrike and Delta. So
can you still blame that on CrowdStrike though 4 days later?
I think so.
I don't understand about Delta's problem is it lingered for so damn long.
I think they're just they all get backed up. Once they get backed up, they just can't dig themselves out of it.
Sure.
It was bad. It was bad. I mean, being in the Atlanta airport the day after the CrowdStrike and just a sea of blue screens of death all over the airport was hilarious.
Yeah. I don't think I told this story at the conference during our recording session, but my son was flying home from Spain that morning, and I couldn't sleep, got up, jumped on Twitter jumped online to see if I could figure out where they were, and we started seeing all these news headlines about the CrowdStrike issue, and airlines were issuing ground stops and stuff like that. I'm like, oh crap, his flight was literally just supposed to take off. So I looked, and it they took off right before American Airlines issued a ground stop. So thankfully they got on the air and he got back and got through everything fine. By the time they landed in Philadelphia, the majority of the issue is resolved, I guess. So yeah, total craziness. And Southwest is sitting there looking like geniuses running Windows 3.1 to
man, that was like 4th, 5th grade for me.
Yeah.
Man, how old was I?
They were Southwest has been playing Oregon Trail the whole time on their on their ticketing system.
Commodore 64.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
running on an AS400 probably I better
that it is crazy.
Yeah.
That they're still running. I grew up on that.
Yeah.
That was my first Windows experience that you had to when your computer booted, you had to choose to launch Windows. You had like a DOS screen. You had to pick Windows. That was the Windows.
I worked in a
that Southwest store. Is still using.
We had to write config sys and auto autoexec.bat files to auto launch Windows on machines. Yeah.
Do you know what's really sad is that Southwest probably has a shelf of active floppy disks to
Sure.
reinstall their operating system. That's how
Sure.
bad it is. So, anyways,
Do I tell my joke
Is it
was
about
it
good,
is it
the
appro
Josh?
crowd
Is it good?
is it
the
appropriate?
CrowdStrike one? Yeah, it's not about almost let a very inappropriate one fly. No, the whole CrowdStrike thing let us know one very important thing, that nothing important runs on Mac OS.
True.
But
True. Yeah, that was great.
okay, I got better ones, but they're rather
You
political.
would think when you posted up to Facebook and only 3 people gave it a like that you wouldn't say it anymore.
Yeah.
No, no, no. You underestimate me, sir.
You tweet that from your iPad too, by the way? You're so
No, the
proud of your new
iPad is
iPad.
the iPad is only for podcast work.
All right. A little bit of financial news. Instructure. If you don't know what Instructure is, they are the company behind Canvas, Mastery Assessments, and Learn Platform. They acquired Learn Platform a few years ago. They are about to be acquired by an investment firm called KKR for $4.8 billion.
Nice.
For comparison, PowerSchool was 5.6 billion. So Instructure with Canvas and Learn Platform, they are doing pretty well for themselves to be going private. KKR, you probably haven't heard of them. They're an investment company. They actually are behind KnowBe4. So
Oh,
they're
interesting.
not a stranger to technology, but they do quite a lot of different things. I didn't recognize most of what's on their portfolio. So
So this is the group that bought Power School. You're friends with, right? That
no, that's Bain. That's Bain
yeah.
Capital, I believe.
I
Yeah,
thought
I
he was
mean,
your neighbor.
no, they're out of Boston, but I don't know them. No, no.
Mark,
Whatever.
these jokes only get better. Come on.
Sorry. So we'll see what happens with Instructure. It's just an interesting trend to see all these investment private equity firms starting to buy up these major ed tech companies and having them
They're
going private. So
the
we'll see what
value of the
happens to
data.
Instructure. Yeah, yeah, it is. It's a very valuable data company. Next up in news, we'll save the best one for last. Let's go to KOSA. The Kids Online Safety Act is a new act making its way through Congress. It is a pretty influential bill because it does impact a lot of social media companies. It is going to basically require social media companies to protect students who are or children who are under the age of 17. And it actually restricts a lot of these addictive features that we're used to seeing. So things like auto scrolling, that
Farmville.
just helps a student or helps a kid just keep going and going and going. They're going to start to ban those kinds of things. It's an interesting bill though, because it is now the US government starting to get into how these social media and how these online companies work and how they act. So you're going to see things like you might start to see educational edtech apps start to change how their platform works, because now you won't be able to have this like infinite scroll or autoplay, those kinds of things. And there'll be a lot more messaging. So right now, what was the EU bill that now we all have to accept cookies every single time?
GDPR.
GDPR. We might start to see more alerts and pages, warning pages. Almost, it feels like a Surgeon General type warning on all these different pages that are going towards kids. So very interesting. This went through the Senate with a 97-3 vote. So very strong bipartisan vote. But the ACLU and other free speech groups are a little weary of this one because they feel like it's the government getting involved in content and censorship. And could this start to lead towards politics? So it's interesting. While it's not directly related to K-12 and education, it's really interesting to see all of the United States government bills and acts really starting to target children's online protection and websites. So
Is,
no doubt we'll see this in education.
is it fair to call this COPA 2.0?
That actually, there is COPA 2.0 that is a separate bill.
Oh, that's right.
But yeah, those two are going through right now. They're gonna get stalled.
So no, Josh, not
So
No,
fair.
yeah, Mark, you can just say no. It's fine.
Wow.
no. But
Jerk.
they went through with flying colors. It's all going to get stalled because Congress is on break for the next 6 weeks. So
Yeah.
nothing's really going to happen until September, and by then we're going to be in the heat of the presidential election. So who
What?
knows what will happen?
There's an election coming up?
Yeah, I forgot who it's with.
Hmm.
That also has changed since we last talked.
I should sit on my couch and watch some TV soon. All right. What's this next story? This next
Uh,
story. Uh, I talked to my superintendent about this today and kind of laid the groundwork of fear with this.
yeah.
This is concerning.
As
This is
did I.
really concerning to me.
This one,
Hey, this is brought to you by Extreme. You can email dmayor@extremenetworks.com for all your extreme networking needs that may or may not be eligible with this next
yeah,
news
yeah.
And
item.
it's extreme is not extremely frightening, but this story is extremely frightening.
Well, you better buy your Extreme switches now or buy all of your E-rate equipment now because E-rate has been officially deemed unconstitutional by the U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals.
Wah, wah,
Now, Mark, do
wah.
you follow the circuit court at all?
No.
I was doing some reading and there are quite a few people that say that the Fifth Circuit, which is based like that Louisiana
Right.
South Central region, that the Fifth Circuit is kind of crazy and have a history of making horrible, incorrect decisions.
Well, so I understand. Although when I was reading this, I actually understand where this is coming from. So let's start with before we get into the what of it, let's talk about the actual details. This is not going to actually impact this current funding
No.
season. So funding for 24-25 school year, you're fine.
And
Nothing's going to happen.
probably not next
Which
year,
is the
right?
final budget year, right? Right?
I don't remember budget year.
I don't know, but
That
so
5-year cycle. Yeah, I don't know.
the appeals they'll be able to appeal it. They've got until September 15th or 16th to appeal it, and then it will go to the U.S. Supreme Court. So we'll likely see this in the U.S. Supreme Court. I don't anticipate anything's going to change, and E-rate has such wide support on both sides of the table. So I can't imagine E-rate is going to go away, but it's going to be quite a lot of headlines for the next, I'd say, 2 to 3 years as this just gets dragged into the court system. Why did they deem this unconstitutional? What they're saying is that the FCC does not have the ability to tell a private company, and to take a step back here again, the E-rate is generated by all the telecom companies and the cell phone companies. They put a little tax on the bottom of your bill.
I thought it was called a fee, though.
Well, I'm glad you said that because that's part of the debate. Is this a tax?
Right.
Is this a fee? What is this?
Right.
And so all these telecom companies put a little bit of a fee or a little, they collect a few bucks on the bottom of your cell phone bill, and that goes into one pool. And the U.S. Court of Appeals is saying, well, wait a minute, the FCC, you are not a tax agency. You don't have the ability to issue a tax. You can't tell a private company to generate revenue for the federal government. So actually, as you start to listen to it that way and think about it, you have an agency, a U.S. government agency, dictating to private companies to collect fees or taxes, essentially taxes, and put them into a federal government pool of money to be issued to school districts. It actually doesn't make sense when you think about it in that way.
Chris, I want the record to show Mark has been he has been out of K-12 for just over a week.
Yeah.
And he is already hating on
against us.
schools. Yeah.
I want my $2.
If you're not for me, you're against me, Mark.
I want my $2 on my cell phone bill back. I don't need E-rate anymore. It's good.
Kudos Fifth Circuit for doing something. When did this come out? Like early 80s.
Oh, you mean
E-rate?
the USF?
Yeah.
So kudos to you for out of nowhere in July 2024.
Well,
reading a sentence different and wrecking schools all across the nation. Like really super cool.
Well, okay. A little bit of clarity on that though. It really wasn't out of the blue. There was a lawsuit that was litigated, tried, and it was appealed to the Fifth Circuit.
And it was because they it was about Wi-Fi on school buses, I
No,
believe, as
it
like
was
some of the overstep. Like, hey,
it,
what are we doing giving funding for Wi-Fi on school
it
buses?
was more to low income individuals that couldn't afford internet at home. It was more of an issue with that. And that money is in the USF fund, the Universal Service Fund, which funds E-rate. So by attacking the underprivileged that can't afford internet and this and receiving funds from USF, they also have attacked the E-rate program,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. Um, so that's where the beef is. And I the whole fee versus tax thing, I come back to uh Obamacare and the whole when that came out, the fee versus tax argument of if you don't get health insurance, you are as an individual, you are liable for a fee. And some were calling that, well, that's actually a tax. Have that argument, whichever side of the fence you land on. To me, this is very similar. So if the government is willing to land on a fee, calling that a fee, I don't know. I'm just saying I think this is a bad decision right now.
But Congress can fix it. Is also this bit like we have a
Uh,
year to go by. They could pass some different law, some different code. Like if the terminology is what's wrong, they can fix it.
um,
I mean, we're talking billions of dollars here. There is going to be a fix. This thing, if the idea that E-rate is going away is crazy because you're going to talk about school districts going into the dark and not
oh
having
yeah,
internet, and
absolutely.
the damage of the loss of E-rate would be tremendous to K-12. So it's not going to go away. It may change. It may change how the money is collected and how it's distributed, but I don't think it's going to go away.
And it's probably more of a change for USF because E-rate is not the only program that the USF funds.
Right.
Mhm.
It may be more of a change to their other programs because like when you go to the USAC portal and log in, there are other portals, not just the E-rate portal to log
Yeah.
into.
Yeah.
Um, it's definitely going to be interesting to watch this play out, and if the Supreme Court does pick it up, the makeup of the Supreme Court, which way they're leaning, if K-12 is still a target for certain groups, like it will be very, very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the conversation I had with my superintendent is, yes, it will hurt us. We're a 60% discount district, but Chris, you're more, right? You're
We're 80.
90%. Yeah.
We're
Mark, what
80.
was
So our internet access, but then I mean, you talk about extreme, but all of our networking, all of our firewall
right?
stuff, like we run like a lot of stuff through E-rate. E-rate is why we have the good infrastructure,
Exactly.
needed infrastructure
Yeah.
Absolutely.
that we have. It's thanks to E-rate.
Yeah.
Mark, what discount were you guys at your former place?
We were 90%.
Were you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we can't operate without. I mean, that was a tremendous amount of money. There's no possible way that we could operate without it. And it would be the same story for millions of schools across the country. So
Yeah,
I,
I
I
agree.
have faith that it's going to get resolved. I think just unfortunately just means a lot of like back and forth and a lot of debate and a lot of time spent trying to figure this out. So we'll
Hey, now
see.
that you have all your this time on your hands, maybe you can get
Fix it.
placed as a expert witness to the
Yeah.
Supreme Court.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And because I don't benefit from the E-rate program, I'm going to be the one in the back holding the sign that says, "Give me my $2 back." I just want my cell phone to be $2 lower than it currently is.
Yeah,
So,
so
yeah,
then AT&T can tell you to finance a new phone
yeah.
for
I'll
3
be the
years.
one in the back saying with a shirt that says "I heart the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals" T-shirt on. I've ordered them en masse.
Oh, that's good to know. Oh,
That is
goodness.
it for the news.
All right. Well, you've earned your $8 tonight. $2
Good
is great.
job, buddy.
Hope that buys a nice latte in Boston. Uh,
Does that buy a latte in Boston?
It could if I wasn't paying so much on my damn cell phone bill.
Mark,
Sorry, should I bleep that out?
you're saving all kinds of gas money now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Got the two Tesla bros here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Josh, should we address this tension on the air?
I don't care. I can take it.
Josh, Chris, and I have been talking about Teslas for quite a while, and
We have.
since our last taping, two of us have acquired Teslas, and one of us is just salty.
I'm not salty. I don't know why you're saying that. I am not. I am not salty at
We
all.
want you to just buy one.
I
Just
know
do
you
it.
want me to just buy one, but I am happily married, and I enjoy peace in my house. As my
Okay.
wife is laughing over here,
I think she's
producer's
in.
laughing.
Did you tell your wife that my dad just upgraded from
Yes,
a
yes.
old
I
like
didn't tell her the
20-year-old
story about the tape
old
deck.
20-year-old car with a tape deck to a Tesla, and this is his first car that does not have a tape deck in it. So
That's amazing. I love
That's
that
crazy.
story.
yeah, he is very overwhelmed right now.
I love that though. I love that. That's awesome. No, I have not bought a Tesla yet.
All right,
All right.
all right.
Chris, why don't you talk about VIZOR and what they're doing for you?
Yeah, VIZOR's going to hang out with us on August 7th. We have our virtual special back to school event. That's a virtual event just in time for back to school. Similar to the meetups, but different agenda, different vibe. It's a full day of professional development. You can come and go as you please. We're going to have some cybersecurity talk and different professional development, but VIZOR will be there with a session as well. That's on August 7th. You can go to k12techpro.com, click on regional meetups, and sign up for that event. It is free.
And don't take my comments as that Mark and Chris aren't happily married, because they are, and their wives are both wonderful people.
I took that as you. I don't know what it says about your relationship. You should think
I'm
about
scared
that
of
yourself.
my wife. That's honestly.
I think she's in earshot right now, so we
Absolutely.
should probably,
She's not further than arm's length away from me. Yeah. With a
Yeah, that's really something you can reflect on.
yeah.
nod
right.
twice if you're safe.
It's weird because all of a sudden I can't load Tesla's website. I think she's messing with my DNS. So one thing that's not on the Go
Can I
ahead.
just predict that your wife is going, I have no idea what the F
That is
DNS is.
That's exactly what she just said. She's laughing. She's like, I know what that means.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. We know each other so well, Mark. So it is the Olympics. This isn't on the agenda. I'm surprising you both with this. It's the Olympics. And if you remember, when we were interviewed by Aruba with Corey, he was still host. We talked about what Olympic sport we felt like we would excel at. So, Chris, what Summer Olympic sport do you believe you would excel at?
Back then it was trampoline something.
Yes, I said we would make a great trampolining team.
Synchronized trampolining.
Still, you're yes.
Oh,
yes.
no, not at all.
Okay.
I was always pretty good at in middle school, or maybe it was like fifth, maybe as elementary. They had the hockey sticks but they were like padded.
Yeah.
And you just ran in the gym.
Kind of like field hockey.
Field hockey in the gym. I would excel at that.
Isn't field hockey a ladies' sport?
I'm not sure.
I don't know if they have guys field hockey. I mean, they could. I don't know. I'm not up on my field hockey. Mark, what Olympic sport, Summer Olympic sport, do you feel like you would excel at?
What's the gymnastics one with the stick with the ribbon on it? And they just twirl the ribbon.
That's what it's called.
It's called the ribbon.
No, it's like rhythmic dancing or something, isn't it?
Ribbon.
Okay, you would excel at ribbon work. Your
Kill that ribbon.
I've seen your ribbon work on presents, on gifts, and I must say, it is rather impressive.
Yeah.
Top notch.
Yeah. I think honestly, table tennis.
Dude, have you been watching that?
It's intense.
It's intense. Those people serve just in no manner I have ever seen or can fathom. I don't know how they're hitting the ball when they serve. And they stomp their foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild.
I'm pretty good at ping pong.
I was going to say ping pong. One thing is clear, and we might get hate mail from the American Olympic Committee, but the American um, badminton team needs serious development work. Like that was nearly embarrassing when they lost on Monday.
We should also mention that at Midwest Tech Talk, I and my partner John got second place
Oh,
in
in
the
the bags
cornhole
contest.
tournament.
Yeah.
I did win the diving competition at Midwest Tech Talk.
You did.
Mhm.
We need to tweet that.
You are good at diving.
Yeah.
If you
All right.
know, you know. If
There's
you were
there's
there, you were
nothing
there.
there's nothing wrong with that video. You're fully clothed. I don't think anyone cussed. I mean, your wife's yelling at you in the background, but
Don't do it, Buck. Don't do it.
There may be multiple angles of a video of me belly flopping into the pool around, I don't know, around midnight or so, fully clothed at the end of Midwest Tech Talk.
yeah,
It was a good time.
it was
It was
great.
good.
So back to school
Would we
stuff.
be good at basketball together?
No,
Three
Nope.
of us?
nope.
Nope.
Is there anything that we would be good at together besides this podcast?
Ribbon. The ribbon.
What's the? Did you see the one where they play with the ball? Like they have this. It's gym. It's just shut up.
That is like most of the Olympic sports. There's basketball, there's field
No,
hockey,
no, 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 no.
there's
I'm talking
Yeah.
gymnastics. It's a floor routine, and
Oh,
Let me
they
Google
throw
that.
this.
Sport involving a ball. Let's just see if we can figure it out based upon that Google.
it's like
photo.
a rhythmic ball. I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about. They make
that's
it look
pretty wild
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say we have a listener email
Yes,
today
go ahead.
for our main topic. I don't have it. You guys got
Oh,
it.
We do. This comes from a listener, G Money. Love the podcast and hope
G
Mark
Money.
sticks around. We can all hope.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, who else is going to pay him $2 a story for news?
Yeah.
So this listener just lost a technician because of money. Guy got a better job somewhere else. The timing couldn't be worse as the school year begins. So there's going to be a gap of time while they try to fill this role. Small department. So this particular person, Mr. G Money, is going to have to switch gears and get back into the trenches of the classroom even more than normal. So it's hard. Ticketing queue is going to be reaching extreme levels as back to school starts. So he's just kind of get through that. So the question comes into this. He says, currently my school underpays faculty and staff and over expects. He's trying to figure out how to approach basically this backfilled position to maybe ask for more money with the new position, maybe to ask for a raise for himself and his current team if that position's not going to be filled quickly. So the question is suggestions on how to broach this with leadership.
You have to have data, right? Like if you're going to make a argument or a compelling case for a raise, especially when districts are staring a financial cliff, is what they're calling it, in the face. You're going to have data comparing your employees' salaries or even salary schedules to neighboring districts or districts in your county or districts across the state with similar size and similar demographics. That can be a lot of legwork and sometimes difficult because not all districts want to share that information. But some districts have salary schedules publicly listed on their website. So I would start there. Chris?
Yeah, I was going to say
Or
the same
Mark?
thing. You can find salaries across the country, but you really need to be very specific to your neighborhood. And if you know the school districts that are most similar to you within your county, within your region, especially the ones that superintendent is most familiar with, superintendents talk to each other a lot.
Absolutely.
They're a very social group. And so if you start to say that here's what I think I should be making and here's what my salary should be, the first thing they're going to do is reach out to their colleagues, their closest colleagues, and confirm. And that's either going to make it or break it for you. So hopefully you have some data that will support your argument by looking at neighboring school districts. Chris?
Yeah, I think other pieces of data to look at, hopefully you have a work order system in place that you can look back at the previous school year or whatever and be like, this is how many tickets this position took on. and we don't have this position now. So like this is what we're going to be up against. And I also think it's a good reminder too, of that you have a document of what this position does, so that when this person is gone, again, this is the hole that we have to try to figure out how to fill, so that you have a case.
Yeah.
I know in our area, our supers are really quick to know what the other positions that the other school districts make. And we know all school districts are different and customized. So
Right.
your technician position might be different than your neighbor's. Maybe that's why your neighbor's tech makes less than yours or whatever. So you need to be able to justify that, validate that with some data to be able to stand on it,
Mark, did you guys ever do like an official salary survey with an outside organization?
We did. We did about 5 years ago or so. We had an outside agency come in and do a salary comparison, and it's very hard to do. In fact, some of my positions were kind of pulled off because they were so unique. But you're comparing technical jobs to both public sector as well as private sector. And we all know that you really can't compare our positions
Yeah.
to private sector. But it's important from the purposes of recruiting, which is what this guy was just asking about, G Money, is how do I want to backfill this position? And so I think it is important to at least have an understanding of what private sector positions pay in your neighborhood, because you're going to want to try to recruit people into this position. And they're going to be looking at your recruits are going to be looking at private versus public salaries. So you at least need to be aware of that. It's hard. We're in Boston. It was very, very hard to compare private sector because we had all like the big tech and big pharma and all that kind of stuff near us, and salaries were just way out of whack. So we did use a lot of other school districts and other city agencies' salaries to compare.
Interesting. Yeah. So when you, like in my area, when you start to compare those salaries, you don't have to go like I'm right in the middle of the county. Not 30 miles to the north of us is St. Louis, and you don't have to go too far south of us to get rather rural areas, farmland, whatever. And that salary change is very very pronounced in those areas as well. The
Mm-hmm.
further north you go, closer to St. Louis you go, those salaries just get higher and higher, very, very quickly. Like I wouldn't have to go 15 miles up the road for probably a $20,000 to $30,000 raise.
Wow.
But if I went 20 miles to the south, I'm probably looking at a $20,000 to $30,000 pay cut. So
Mm-hmm.
it's where you're located plays a very large role as well. So
Well,
that
if you're in a position where you're not seeing salaries that are significantly higher, do you have any other tips for what people could do? I mean, I've always found if I want to repost a position, I might want to reclassify the job description, maybe add some certifications, add some
sure.
licensures, or maybe if I can add some job responsibilities and use that to push to get the salary increased. No one likes to have things added to their plate, but if you're trying to backfill the position, that might be a good opportunity for you to use that as a way of getting the salary increased a little bit.
Yeah. No, all good points. Chris, anything else?
I you have to ask, like, if
Mhm.
you are feeling underpaid and overworked and you're feeling salty, like Josh is with the Tesla thing, you got to do something about it. You got to order the Tesla after we get off this podcast recording. Or in the case of G Money, you do have to say something. You need to bring it to your boss, and let it be known. Because the biggest thing at the very end, he mentioned some family stuff, right? That he has kids. Bigger than your job, more important than your job, a bigger priority is your family and your livelihood.
Yeah.
You want to have a job that you're happy with, that you feel good about when you leave. So you got to do something about it.
But I will say, after spending time in the private industry for a while, the expectations of work-life balance are way more skewed than what I've experienced in K-12 for the last 10 years. I working at and granted, I worked at a hospital 24/7 environment, so that is a little different anyway. But weekly, I was getting called at 2, 3 in the morning to fix printers, and you don't deal with that in K-12. I can count on one hand the number of times I've gone in the evening or weekends due to an emergency. And that's not something I make my guys do. Like I'm a mile from school. We can do that.
Yeah.
So I mean that is also something that plays in a huge part in the private versus public conversation, though.
That was brought to you by Fortinet. You can email fortinetpodcast@fortinet.com. It is going to be okay. Real talk. Well, what I just did was real talk too. But my SIS coordinator said something today, Josh, that you said a long time ago.
Uh-oh.
And this put my headspace back on track. Now, obviously, my headspace can get off track quickly. But talking about first days of school with new system, she said, biggest concern, did they get to school?
Yep.
Is transportation working? And did
Yep.
we feed them?
Yep.
All the rest can be fixed. The data entries, all the screw ups in our system can be navigated through in the days to come. And that puts it in the right perspective. We have a lot of kids excited for back to school.
Good. Yeah, you'll get there. It's not fun, but whatever. You'll get there.
I'm done.
Anything else? Any closing thoughts about the Olympics?
They should have brought Caitlin.
Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a crappy ending. We'll see you next week. If Chris is still with us, we'll get I guess probably an Infinite Campus update. And we'll see how it's going.
It's going great.
All right. Shoot us an email, k12techtalk@gmail.com. Complain about this ending because it was not good. Tell us what your Olympic sport would be, Corey, if you're listening. I'm curious what your Olympic sport would be. Find us on Twitter/X, whatever it's called. Ignore the adult content comments and stuff that are out there. We're still there. We're still on X. I guess we will see you next week. Thanks for listening.
We might not be the same. You share the same pain that I do.
The views and opinions expressed on the K-12 Tech Talk podcast are the personal opinions of Josh, Chris, and Mark, and do not represent the views or opinions of our sponsors or other organizations that we're affiliated with. The material and information presented here is for general information and entertainment purposes only. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
We were buying words about the phrase of the baby and selling songs just to stay